Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Our guest has a path to success that's easy and inexpensive. Let's learn more from Maria Maldonado Smith. Maria, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill. I'm excited to be here.
Me too, because I love your book and the title, Creating a Vision Board. Now, that's a topic we haven't heard much about for a long time. We've been on for over 35 years. We used to hear it more years ago, but it seems to not be popular today. So I want to know, what is a vision board? Tell us.
A vision board, in the most simplest term, is a visual representation of the goals that you're working to achieve. But I say that my process and my boards are not your average vision board. I actually incorporate the neuroscience of goal setting and habit formation into the process of, and the power of vision imagery into the entire process of building out and creating my vision board.
So you sneak that in like the cereal companies. They put vitamins, they put protein in the cereal. We don't know we're eating it, but we're getting stronger and better and more physically fit. Is that the deal?
That's the deal. That's the deal. I want to help you prime and prep your brain and train your brain to see those images out in the world, out in the universe daily. But I also incorporate tactics and techniques that allow you to set yourself up for success. You know, we're only as strong as our systems and processes that we put in place to get us there. Because if not, then a goal is just a really lofty dream.
Oh, I like that. Now, if I read your book correctly, a very high percentage of our learning comes from visual images, etc. Am I correct about that?
Yes. About 80 to 90% of us are visual learners. I mean, we have other aspects, auditory, kinesthetic. I mean, we learn from a myriad of different ways, but, majority of us are visual learners, meaning we are taking something that we see. I liken this, especially when I work with children, youths or even adults as well. We can all recall our favorite movie, or we can recall, a time in our life, and we paint that picture, right? We say, like, get that visual, or we see the car that we like, or we see something that kind of jogs our memory about something. Those visual cues are all encoded in our brain in order to set ourselves up for success if we use them in that way.
And I like the way you put that, because it does. Whatever we're surrounded by, it's going to somehow or other start to seep into our brain. It's like if we're breathing, Cinnabon when you go to the airport. Mm-hmm. I can never pass that Cinnabon place without buying, because it wafts out. It smells so good. I have to come around back and buy something from them. But if we see this all day, that's just by process. It has to seep in and change what we're doing somehow. How did you get into this vision board?
This process for me really started in a different form, a very basic form. When I was 8 years old, I had a teacher who actually asked us all to get out a piece of paper and write down 3 goals that we wanted to achieve. Really no direction, no specification on time. She just said, write down 3 things that you want to accomplish. And I took that to mean 3 big goals. I've been a dreamer my entire life. I'm a very big dreamer, big picture person. And so I wrote down 3 things, and then that was transferred onto a Post-it note, and they stayed. That Post-it note then, was rewritten a few times throughout my life, I guess, but by the time between when I was 8 until I was 18, but it stayed on my mirror till I was a senior in high school. And, the first one was to graduate college. I'm the daughter of an immigrant, who came to this country on the back of a horse, worked in the horse racing industry for 50 years. And, he had an 8th grade education. So education was really, stressed and paramount in our family. My brothers and I got the talk often, if I'd had the opportunity to go to school, so it was put upon us. So graduate college was the first one that I wrote down. The second one was, I wanted to be Miss Kentucky, because I've been watching the Miss America pageant with my mom since I was, I always tell people knee high to a grasshopper, because that's a very Kentucky phrase. But when probably over the time I was like 5 or 6 years of age, and I can remember watching the young women and thinking, that's who I want to be. That's who I want to be. So I wrote down I wanted to be Miss Kentucky. And then the third thing, I wrote down, probably out of just sheer trying to impress my teacher, or to, like, suck up in a certain way. I wrote that I wanted to be a United States Senator. And that was honestly most likely, when I think about it, like when I really think back to that moment, I don't remember much else about that moment other than like doing the exercise, taking it to my mom's office, and then, transferring it from my piece of paper to my Post-it note. But I do remember thinking, yeah, my dad learned English by watching politicians on C-SPAN. And so that sounds really cool. And I think I kind of like that. Interestingly enough, you talk about, you see something over and over. It did something, because I took on a lot of leadership roles when I was in high school. I was my sophomore through senior class president. I ended up majoring in political science. I was a double major in vocal performance and political science at the University of Kentucky. So it did impact that. I interned in DC. So somehow that path to outlining when I was 8 years old that I wanted to be a United States Senator did, it impacted me in one way. I have no intentions or no plans whatsoever to run for political office ever. I commend people who do, but that is not going to be.
We want you helping us to be successful, because you're doing a great job through this book, and obviously it worked for you. So
yes.
Now, what's necessary in prepping if we want to follow your direction and do like you did? What are some of the things we're going to need for a vision board?
Well, you're going to need first, my workbook. Definitely. The workbook breaks it down for you. Like I said, it's not your average vision board. I think oftentimes when people think about a vision board, they think very kind of woo and even cringy. I mean, I get that sometimes in my corporate workshops when I first start, and everyone sees everything in front of them because they think, oh gosh, what are we doing today? Or cutting out pictures, like a third grader or a fourth grader. It's so much more than that. So start with the workbook and then work through the process. It's a 5-step process. And then, you are going to need a board. So I am all about reusing, reducing, and recycling. So when we first started this process with our family years ago, we would take old Amazon boxes and flatten them and just cut them out and cut out a nice piece of cardboard that we could put our board on there. So it was a way to reuse that. Old magazines, newspapers, anything that can be reused. If you find a saying on the outside of a cereal box, cut it out and keep it if you like it. Anything that sparks or ignites a feeling or emotion that you think you might want to include in your board. And I always save all of those up, because then the real task becomes of sitting and setting aside time. We have to set aside time to actually give ourselves the opportunity to think and to write out what it is that we want. I start with 3 questions. And the first one is, what do I want? Simply put, what is it that I want? Oftentimes, we don't even answer that simple question, and we make things way more complex than we need. The second one is, who do I want to become? When I work in schools, I focus less on what children want to do with the rest of their life and more so on who they want to become. Because I think that if we are raising good and kind humans, then the rest will figure itself out. And the third thing is, what do we want to create? What is it that we want to create in our life and we want to build? If you start there and then start working through the workbook with the word of the year and then on through the process, you've got everything. You've got all the components you need. Add in a glue stick and some scissors and you're good to go.
Maria, I love that. And I kidded you before the show. And I said, if this was on late night TV, they would say $399. But wait, if you call right now, we'll send you 2 books and 2 vision boards and 2 magic markers, etc. But really, it's very inexpensive. Am I correct?
It is. Yeah, my workbook is less than $15 on Amazon. And that's primarily because I want everyone to do this process. I really do feel this is the foundation of just so much personally, individually, but also within our families as well. We do this with our children every year. We have, our command center. So we have our Smith Family Vision Board where we bring everything together, and then we have our individual boards. It's just a great way to engage with your family. It's a great way to engage if you're a teacher with your class, to start to get to know them in a different way. And it also helps children get to know themselves. I say often that if we started this process with children when they were about 8 or 9 and really followed them all the way through, and really helped them focus on goals and help them understand what a goal is and how to set themselves up for success, that we would have just a much better world. I think we would be happier, we'd be healthier, less stressed, and I think that we'd have a better center of direction as well.
I love that. And I honestly, over the years, I've interviewed many, of course, entrepreneurs, and many of them will freely admit they use the equivalent of they may not have called it a vision board, maybe a goal board or something like that, but they would put down their goals on it. They would put down what they wanted to achieve. And of course, it was always in front of them at their office or at their home. They saw it and that was the point of it. And like you said, a good saying or a motto or something that they wanted to achieve. But you make it even easier in the book. You break it down and literally give us the outline of what to do. All we have to do is fill in the spaces. And of course, that's personal, what we want to be, whether it's an athlete, a famous doctor, a writer, et cetera, et cetera. And the great part of this is it costs almost nothing. As you said, it's the books and magic markers, et cetera. You talk about having a word for the year. What is your word for this year?
My word for this year is trust. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are most likely type A, and we're tend to be control freaks. we like things our way. It's why we like to be our own boss. And so sometimes that means that we have a difficulty in trusting our own process. And one thing I kept finding last year was questioning how things were happening or wanting things to happen faster than they were. And really what it reminded me was that the reason I designed the process that I did was because it was a way for me to actually track slowly my progression to overall success or to the goal that I was working to achieve. I also think sometimes we get in our own heads and we don't trust that what we're doing is right for us, and so we question it and we overthink things. And so I wanted to really have that word represent for me spiritually, emotionally, mentally, what I needed it to do for me this year, which was to trust that everything was happening for me. It was supposed to be that way. So if I get told no by a company that doesn't want to utilize my workshop now, that's okay, because another one will come along.
Well, I want you to trust me that I'm going to be back with you in about 30 seconds. But right now, I'm going to tell our audience that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Maria Maldonado Smith. Her book is Creating a Vision Board. And Maria, would you tell us the website where we can get more information?
Sure. My website is MMS, that stands for Maria Maldonado Smith, mmsconsultingfirm.com.
Easy enough to remember. And again, for our audience, I want to remind you, if you missed part of the show or you want to tell someone about it, simply go to our podcast. Go to nccradio.org, mccradio.org, look for Secrets of Success, and then Maria's show, Maria Maldonado Smith, Creating a Vision Board. That's all you have to do. You also mentioned core values. What are some core values that you or someone else would put on a vision board? Give us an example.
Well, I'll use some that have popped up in workshops of mine in corporations, because when I do this in a corporate setting, I'm working with executive leaders, mid-level managers, individual contributors, you name it. Everyone from the person who's entry level all the way up to, the president of the company and CEO, and small businesses all the way to large corporations. Family, fitness, finance was one that was kind of cute that one of the corporate attendees came up with. But, honesty, integrity, compassion, open-mindedness, some of these are core values that I think come up when we think about our everyday life. I also think about core values being something that are key and central to us. What is something that is really important to us that we're unwilling to compromise or negotiate with? And so setting boundaries can become a core value of yours, because if you find yourself being someone who constantly says yes to everything, or you're running yourself ragged, or you find yourself being taken advantage of by friends, by coworkers, by, your family even, setting boundaries could become a boundary could become a core value that you do not compromise or waver from. I always tell people to honor those commitments and those core values that they make. But those are some of them that have popped up in my workshops.
Maria, I want our audience to notice when you said that, you talked about providing this information to corporations and the leaders of the corporations. This is not something, while it wouldn't be bad if it was just for kids or high school kids or us who might be at home, You're talking about the leaders who really want to get ahead, who are the professionals that we are all guided by. We're buying their products. We're listening to them. I'm sure some politicians in there. If that's what we're going for in the world, we've got to keep up with the competition. If the other ball players are doing some exercises, we have to do it. And this is so simple. This is there's no excuse to get out of it here. So I think you've hit on something that we all like and all want to do. Yeah. I copied something down because I need you to explain it. You say, I live life in the uncomfortable. What does that mean?
I love living my life in the uncomfortable. What that means is I live my life to push myself outside of my comfort zone. When, I explain that in my workshops because I say, our brain, our natural tendency is to be in a state of comfort. We enjoy that. The brain enjoys that because it doesn't have to work as hard. When we are challenging ourselves and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, we're actually creating new neural networks in our brain. And so I liken it to a child who is learning how to walk or learning how to eat. Children, that's why we say they're so resilient. That's why we say they're unencumbered. That's why we say that they're remarkable because they're just learning things every single day. But it's because they're forcing their brain every day to teach it something new, to do something different. The problem is as we get older, we don't grow as much. We don't allow ourselves to grow as much. So by pushing myself to live in the uncomfortable, by getting up on stages in public speaking, which is something that 75 to 80% of the world thinks is a massive fear of theirs. I'm pushing myself out in the uncomfortable by challenging myself to on a daily basis. Just to meet new people, to eat new things, to read a different book that might not be a genre that I am necessarily inclined to be interested in every way, trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone.
I think for all of us, that's something we could take from today. Just going outside that comfort zone and you use the expression, live your life there. But if everybody did something every day, whether it's donating to a charity, doing a little extra work for a good cause, learning, as you said, something new in a book and maybe just opening their mind up to some new thoughts that might be totally different. Why do other people think this way or that way? What are there certain things you see that people keep putting up on the vision boards that seem to keep coming up, losing weight or finding a husband who looks like George Clooney or
So you actually touched on quite a few of them. Yeah. So I would say the top three have to do with health and wellness, number one, financial freedom, number two, travel is third typically. And then fourth are personal relationships. So whether that is finding a partner, getting engaged, getting married. I've had participants in my workshops put that on their board and I have loved that they've shared with me that they have found the one, and they're, getting engaged. It's really cool to see. I've worked with several clients that has happened to. And I think it's because they've made that a big part of what they're looking for in their life, and they've sought it out. They stepped into the uncomfortable daily. They went out on those dates. They met that person. But health and wellness is number one, followed by financial freedom, and then travel. And
I like the way you use that word because I think a lot of us would say, "I want to get rich." And I want to have the things that riches show, a house by the lake, a boat, a car, a plane, whatever it is we're looking for. But financial freedom is different. This way we can do what we want. We don't have to show off. We don't have to have a lot of material possessions, just enough to be free, whatever that might mean. Maybe paying off our debts, paying off the IRS if we owe money to them, maybe our parents or somebody, or school loans, whatever. But whatever the words financial freedom mean, and once we do that, we've achieved that goal. How long a period do you give for a vision board? Is that done monthly, weekly, every decade, every year?
My process is a year, but here are some caveats to that. You can still have long-term goals that are going to take you longer than a year to achieve. You still put it on the board. I've had things that have carried over my board for 3 years, if it's a 3-year goal of mine. I've had things that I know I can accomplish within 6 months. I leave space on my board to add to it throughout the year, because one thing that I try to stress upon participants in my workshops is that we're going to evolve and we're going to change. So a goal that might work for us at the beginning of the year might not be working for us 6 months in, and our mind might change. I mean, I changed my mind. I don't want to be a U.S. Senator anymore, but that's the beauty of life, is that we get to make those choices and say, you know what, this is not going to work for me anymore. I don't want to be that. I want to be something different, or I want to do something different. So, you might have a goal to run a marathon, and halfway through, you might have an injury that prevents you from achieving that goal. Well, you know what? You can create new goals out of that, though. It doesn't have to be, the race doesn't have to be the end all be all. Like the goal is just the destination. It's everything around it that you're building that is key to us being more successful. It's the continuation of the process and the habit that you're forming. So leave space and leave room. But I always, I never give any rules around quadrants or anything like that, because we all think differently. And that's the beauty of having, all kinds of minds involved in my workshops, is that where one person might be very methodical and strategic about where they want to place their images and how they want to place them, others like myself might just kind of put everything all over it and like to make it look more like a collage. So the real work is done in the workbook. The board is just the visual representation.
Once again, Maria, before we go further, I'd like to let our audience know, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Today, our guest is Maria Maldonado Smith. Her book is Creating a Vision Board. And Maria, we're going to ask you for that website so our audience can go take a look at that.
It is mmsconsultingfirm.com. So
easy enough.
MMS Consulting Firm, yes.
And it'll be one more time by the end of the show, so if you didn't get that down, please do so. How do you hold yourself accountable now? At the end of the year, do you put a score, 76 out of 100 or A plus, A minus, or do you grade it by, let's say you have 5 main topics on the vision board. Maybe I lost 5 pounds, but I was trying for 10, so 50-50. Maybe I didn't score anything on finding a new job, but I did read 8 good books.
Very much so. I do a monthly review. I always preface this by saying, this is my work. This is what I do. This is my passion. This is my life. So I do a monthly review, but I'm also tracking my habits monthly. I have a habit tracker. That's how I'm keeping, in touch with what I'm working to achieve and to accomplish. And then those habits build up to the larger goal. I've been checking in monthly. I am then checking in quarterly with myself and with my goals. I'm tweaking. I am shifting. I'm rewriting. I'm better understanding where I'm at within the goal process. And I am giving myself a grade. But I'm doing that at the end of the month. And then mid-year, we just actually completed our mid-year review with our family and graded ourselves. And we were very honest in some of the categories around some family time or some of my husband and I's goals. We gave ourselves a C plus. Some of them we have flat failed. Those family walks have not happened this year like we wanted them to. And we have to be honest with ourselves. It is the middle of summer here in South Florida, so it is about 192 degrees. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to get out and do those family walks. But, we put it on the board. So here's the other thing. We give ourselves a lot of grace, and we said, you know what, for the rest half of the year, we're about to hit a really nice season. Fall is a beautiful time to live here in South Florida, and we're going to be able to get out and do those family walks more. So we try not to beat ourselves up too much about them, but it's just a great way to check in and to be mindful of where you're at in the process.
And I was going to ask you, and I think you just answered it though, do you use a mentor or a teammate to kind of watch with you? People who want to lose weight or go to the gym often say I do it with someone else because we'll both run together or go to the gym at the same time. Do you find that helps, or should you keep it private to yourself?
Oh, no, accountability is absolutely key. There's a science that says when we have a written action plan and we tell someone what our goals and our plan is for them to keep us accountable, we're 76% more likely to accomplish our goals. So accountability partners are absolutely key. That's what my private coaching does. I have private one-on-one coaching where I am essentially your accountability. I'm your accountability mentor and partner. I am there for you daily if you need, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly. We're doing coaching sessions. And then I have group coaching cohorts as well that are 3 times a year. And they go for 1 quarter so that you can get started and that you understand the process. And then you can be maintained quarterly through or monthly through just a monthly membership where you would log on and you have access to me where we can talk through what's working, what's not, tweak your goals and help you get realigned.
And I think, Maria, as I'm hearing this, just the fact that you put them down, people say if you write the goals and visualize them, just the fact that you do that, I think that increases, and this is my personal guess, our chances of achieving by probably 70 or 80% right there, just because they're in front of us every day. We made somewhat of a commitment in writing it down, and this neuroscientists that we have on say, if you write something down or if you give your word to somebody, that increases the chances of people living up to it, whether it's a go green or a charity or something. That's the strategy they all seem to use. Do you have any fun goals, though, or something you'll share with us? Are you out there to be the best line dancer in the world, or shark hunter, or ghost hunter, maybe?
Yeah. So I love this, and actually NPR just did something on why play. That's why my third goal is play. It's called play/fun, and everyone's always kind of scratching their head at times when I'm in corporate workshops, like, what in the world, play? You remember imaginative play? Free play when you were in kindergarten and in first grade. Sometimes I don't think they do that anymore because heck, we practically have recess these days in our educational system. But that's when you got time to explore. That's when you got time to be a free thinker and be creative and let those creative juices flow. And so for me, that comes in the form of really of speaking. That's actually my play goal. But I would say my other one is to master the Spanish language, because I am not fluent in Spanish, and my father is from Argentina, so I should be. But he struggled to learn the English language, so that was of utmost importance to him when he was raising us. So I have been on my Babbel, and I've got my 15 minutes a day, and that is what I'm working to accomplish. But whatever that hobby is, whether it's, pottery or archery or horseback riding, I always tell people to engage in that and set aside time to do that for yourself.
And Maria, are there any problems that we should expect, or that you see that mistakes maybe, so you can take either word, that people make along the way that you can tell us, and if we know early on, we'll avoid that?
We have an all or nothing mindset. We have this idea that if we don't accomplish it right now, or if we don't do it within the first 4 weeks and we aren't consistent every single day, then we need to give up. We convince ourselves very easily to give up in that way. And in fact, 92% of people who set New Year's resolutions, 62% give up within the first month for very much those exact reasons. So only 8% of people are actually finishing throughout the end of the year. And that's partly because everyone says, "Oh, new year, new me." I tend to disagree. Nothing changes in that 1 minute. I'm not necessarily. I understand the mindset of that, but for me, it is a new year, a new opportunity to change my behavior, to change how it is I show up for myself in the world. So if you can mitigate having an all or nothing mindset and understand that the consistency is key. The other thing is getting really clear around your goal. Oftentimes we say, "Oh, I want to get healthy. I want to be better." Well, what does that really mean? We're not dialing that down to better understand truly and defining what that means specifically. So I give some examples of positive habits to build in there, because what may be healthy for one person or getting healthy for one person might be totally different.
Maria, sorry.
For you, it might be one thing. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, because I see the clock is running out on us, we want that website one more time.
Sure. It is mmsconsultingfirm.com.
And I want to remind our audience, the book is Creating a Vision Board, easiest way for your path to success. And you can follow the words of our guest, Maria Maldonado Smith. Maria, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
To our audience, you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.